Hello and welcome to episode 70 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yep, basically we're just regular dudes drinking some highly irregular beer and talking about Magic, in particular MTG Arena, the online client.
Yes, and we're talking about that client's newest format. There's going to be a newer one soon, but this is the newest one as of right now. Alchemy.
It will have held that title for like a few months.
Just a few months, We're talking all about the digital-only format, Alchemy, which isn't the only one, I guess. So I guess it doesn't even get that real title. But anyway, first we got to talk about some beers. So each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
You know, we will be able to call it Arena's oldest digital first format, or does Historic still kind of
I think Historic
squeeze in on the other side of that?
I think
it's just got nothing.
It's just the second digital only format.
Oh, poor Alchemy. Even though Historic is getting replaced with the digital only version of Historic, or non-digital only version.
We can talk about that. Let's talk about beer, Jeff. Let's talk about the beer.
All right. So I brought a real nice one this week. It's called Grendel's Revenge. This will be the beginning of our Indie Alehouse tap takeover that we're doing for the next couple episodes here. Grendel's Revenge is a barrel-aged Eau de Bruin, or maybe Eau Bruin. I'm not sure. It's from the Flemish region of Belgium is where the name comes from, apparently. But basically, this is a beer style that's kind of like, from what I can understand, like farmhouse style from Belgium with really long fermentation times. So they like ferment the crap out of it. This particular one was aged in port and Madeira barrels. And it's a multi-vintage blend that I think you were mentioning. They said aged for like 1 to 3 years.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, let's pop this cork open. We haven't. I don't know if we've had one with the cork before, so this might be a first.
Yeah, we just had to open this on the show, right?
Yeah.
You know, like we can't just crack it ahead of time.
All right. Ooh, I got the cage off. You ready? You got this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Ooh. Okay.
It's a really long cork. There we go.
All right. Perfect.
Hopefully the mics picked that up.
Yeah.
Just do that for nothing.
Not nearly as exciting.
Going, ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, but this color looks quite nice.
Yes.
I'm pretty excited for all the beers we got picked out for these next couple episodes. So.
Yes, there are some interesting ones for sure.
But this one smells delicious. All right. Jeff, as we're sipping on this thing, we have some magic news. Hooray! It is spoiler season once again. The Streets of New Capenna story has just dropped, and each day we are getting a new spoiled card, which I think is a really cool new way of doing the beginning of spoiler season. Kind of slow roll us.
Yeah, it's a really charming idea.
So I like that. And, you know, Jeff, when there's a new story out, makes it seem like we're going to have a Drunken Vorthos episode pretty soon, huh?
I know. That's what gets me most excited.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, not even reading the previews. I'm like, no, this is like previews for Drunken Vorthos, you know?
Exactly. So stay tuned for that in the future. It's going to be happening. Really excited for that. Always love a Drunken Vorthos episode. But we also have some rebalances that are needed very badly for Alchemy.
Yeah, we'll get a little more into that later. But these are absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So apparently they will be implemented on April 7th. That weekend is the qualifier weekend. So they're getting implemented 2 days before that event happens, which is also Alchemy. However, we should know what the cards are or how they've been rebalanced this week at some point. So I don't know. We'll see. It seems like a really short period of time to like test. You can like guess, but you don't really get to play with the cards until 2 days before.
I like this though. I think the only way to explain this from my vantage point, and you know, who knows, could just be something totally different. But for whatever reason, actually implementing the changes will take time for the arena coders and staff to actually make it happen. but the designers have already pretty much figured out what they want to do. And as we kind of mentioned, you can't have the qualifier weekend be this format. That should not be an option. So they've chosen the most logical option to me, which is show us what the cards are. We'll implement them as quickly as we can, but we'll guarantee this date, and that way you know for the big tournament that you're not playing this totally broken format. You're going to get to play something that is a little fixed, shall we say.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of the cards that we are expecting to get fixed or changed in this episode. But something that they had said at the announcement or the discussion about the economy, which more about that in last episode, but they were saying that they were thinking that the process to implement or to get rebalances is about three or 4 weeks. It's kind of like a week to figure out which cards need to be changed, a week to design them, and then a week to implement them. So now we're in the middle of it right now. At least that's what they were kind of explaining, which, makes sense to me. I'm happy with that. But hey, at least they are being transparent and telling us what they're preparing to do and what they're trying to do. So I do like that.
I mean, this was what the point of Alchemy was, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to do stuff like this, whereas maybe you couldn't get away with something like this in Standard, banning 2 days before a format or something like that. This is much more reasonable.
Yeah, because you also don't have to worry about finding the cards because they're already in your collection or easily available. Something that doesn't really make a ton of sense for the format that I thought was going to be faster Standard. So we found out about Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. Now, on this show, we don't talk a lot about Commander because you can't really play Commander on Arena. But this is an exception, I guess. So the paper product is coming out June 10th. However, they mentioned there is going to be Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate coming out on Arena sometime in July, which will have some Commander Legends Baldur's Gate cards, Commander Legends other cards from both of those products that were rebalanced for 1v1, and maybe some digital-only versions of cards. I don't really know. Why? What is happening?
Yeah, this one's a bit of a head scratcher for me. So basically, as I understand it, this product will just, like a lot of other products, will come out with an Alchemy version. Like it's a standard set. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's not a standard set. So it's going to come out with an even bigger Alchemy side set than most of the standard sets come out with. But like, aren't we just making Alchemy like mini historic now?
Yeah, but
it will rotate out, I guess.
Right? Eventually. Will it? I guess with
It'll
more
be replaced with another Commander Legends every year. It's like the core set. Commander Legends.
I don't understand. I'm really confused. What is this?
They love these Horizons sets, just whatever Horizons. Yeah, I don't know who wants this, though. Like, do Alchemy players really overlap with the people who really love Commander Legends that much?
No. And I think this is something that we have learned that maybe Wizards hasn't learned yet. So we were really big into drafting fantasy players for different tournaments, for Magic the Gathering tournaments. Because something we really thought was fun. People didn't necessarily love listening to that, so we stopped.
I'm happy to go out undefeated, though, one every season I've played, so.
Okay, whatever. Bringing that up again. I lost. Everyone I lost, okay? But Wizards is just, they know that they're it seems like their main focus is get Commander players playing Arena. And
right.
I don't think this is the way to do it. And adding Commander players want like 3 things, right? They want a big card pool so they can play with whatever they want. Arena will never have the card pool that Magic is. It's just not going to happen. They want to be social and talk to their friends, which you can't on Arena because they haven't implemented a feature that does that. And they want to play multiplayer, which we also can't do on Arena. So just give it up. Just don't.
It's just different.
It's just different, man. Thing. It's okay. It's different.
Pretty much a different game.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, just let it go. Just don't Why? Anyway, we try not to complain too much on the show, but this is one of the ones that I just don't really understand.
It's a head scratcher. It's a way to piss Alchemy players off. Like, people who are already pissed off about Alchemy are not going to like this.
No. And it also just seems like the opposite of what they wanted was, hey, here's a format that changes really quickly. Because I guess that's what it is. They're trying to pretend that it's a rotating format, but it's not standard at all. I don't know.
I thought it was just supposed to be standard. It gets some extra cards. The cards get nerfed and rebalanced. And that's it.
So now they're telling us it is a rotating format that has any product that has been put out. And we will...
I guess so, yeah.
I guess, with exceptions.
Like, maybe they're trying to make it diverge faster from standard. Like, I know that was originally their motivation in Historic. Was like, oh, this just feels like...
Standard Plus.
The standard sets that rotated out. It just feels like old standard. And people are sick of losing to those decks. So why don't we make this historic anthology where we put a bunch of, like, really old cards into the set that people like? And,
hey, I love that.
Accelerate it changing from standard.
I loved that because otherwise I couldn't play auras. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But this one's a bit different because it's always supposed to kind of parallel standard. So I don't know why you want it to diverge more quickly.
Yeah. And I think maybe this is just them telling us that, no, it wasn't supposed to do that. This must have been planned the whole time. Unless this is just like we're having some hard times with Alchemy. Let's just change it completely. Let's drastic changes. I honestly can't say, but we don't have a lot of information about it at the moment. So maybe they're just using the word alchemy for digital stuff, and then it's really just in historic. Fuck if I know, man. But anyway, yeah, let's talk about alchemy as we're already in it.
Yeah,
there was so like I was saying before, last week we had a big talk about Arena's economy and some ways that you can kind of tips and tricks to use the economy to the best that you basically can and help you out the most. And one of the things we said is all access events are really great because you get to play with cards you don't own, and then you get to see if you want to craft them. And metagame challenges are really good for constructed players because the EV is very high. Well, this weekend, there was an all-access Alchemy metagame challenge, which was awesome. So, thank you. That's exactly what we were talking about. And I was overjoyed to see that. Jeff, did you have time to play in the metagame challenge? I know you were doing things this weekend.
Yeah, so I didn't play in the metagame challenge because I was busy in the weekend, but I played a lot of Alchemy, a little bit yesterday and then last week before the metagame challenge. So I feel like I have a good handle on where the format's at, but luckily all of my losses didn't, they were all free losses, so... I didn't lose any gold.
Yeah, well, that's good. I played some of the metagame challenge. I did not read it completely because, well, there was one thing on Arena that they didn't actually have a good breakdown of what it was. Usually they have the little thing that says, "Hey, so this is you can use any cards from your collection or that aren't in your collection or whatever."
Right.
It didn't really say that, so I thought it was a best of one thing. I brought a mono black best of one deck to the first one I did, and it actually was the best run I had all weekend, but but I wasn't playing against real decks. I was playing against a bunch of people's just decks they have, and I was like, ooh, sorry, I'm just playing Turgrid and discard spells. This is not fun for you.
Yeah.
So I didn't do extremely well. I think I went 4-3, but or whatever. But it was, or no. So you're one loss and you're out. So it was 4-1.
Right.
So, and then after that, I did just terribly, really, really bad. So I have experience getting crushed in Alchemy after playing decks that were not meta Alchemy decks. So, but yes,
that was my experience as well. I would say my main experience with Alchemy was putting really cool cards in my deck and then discarding them. That was pretty much the main thing that I did.
Yeah, so basically from the set championship, City Stalker Connoisseur became this huge card, and people were playing it before that, but now it's like a must-have. And then with a lot of the Neon Dynasty cards that came out, there were some more black cards that were really good and mean, and in a good way. I'm happy that they're mean. They're just very strong and very aggressively costed.
Right, the rate on them is a little silly.
Yeah. What the fuck is Undercity Plunder? Like, what the fuck is this card?
Yeah.
I
don't know. Like,
why is this a 2-for-1?
is there just any way it's not a 2-for-1?
So, if you don't remember, Undercity Plunder is the 1 and a black for the sorcery that your opponent has to discard a card, and they can choose to discard another card. But if they don't, then you draw a card out of their deck, and then you can spend any mana. You conjure a card, so you don't actually take theirs, but you get one of their cards in their deck, and you can spend any mana to cast it.
Oh, it doesn't say you get the shittiest card in their deck? Oh, well, that was my experience with the card. But
Oh, you didn't? I also got only lands, but...
You get a land? No, not unless you need a land. Mm-hmm. Then you get some, card that costs, 8 mana, and you're like, why are you playing this? Is this tech against Undercity Plunder? But, so my initial deck that I whipped together was ninjas, obviously, because I was like, hey, there are some really good cheap black cards. The one that lets you draw 2, and then it makes all your expensive stuff cost less, but I'm a ninjas deck, I don't have any expensive stuff, so it's literally just a draw 2 for 2. And then Undercity Plunder, which, like you said, is just basically a 2-for-1. And then there were some decent ninjas that came out that I also blew some wild cards on, like the one that makes rats when it hits them, which is actually a pretty good card, but I've found out that it is an absolute lightning rod for removal. It never survives. And I was having a lot of fun, but I was just kind of losing the mid-range war to all of the, City Stalker Connoisseur decks that were playing all of the stupid black 2-for-1s that I was playing, but also a couple more stupid black 2-for-1s than I had. So, my deck had to actually get in with a creature to 2-for-1 them or to gain advantage. Their deck just had to have the creature and cast it at some point. So they had a bit of an advantage over me. But I had some really razor-thin matches with that one. Especially, I noticed you put something as some little tech that I also discovered that tech against the Discard Mania, and that helped even my matchup a bit, but not quite all the way there.
Yeah, so this tech, I'm sure everyone who's played Alchemy knows what we're talking about, is a card from Kaldheim that I didn't think I'd ever play, but Orvar, the All Form, is the tech, because when you discard it, it does something. So or if you're forced to discard it, it does something. I never thought that a card that had the text when an opponent, when a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this thing, do this thing. All those cards always seemed like shit, always. And
yeah.
And this just...
sometimes they see play in older formats just as, anti-Thoughtseize tech. You put 1 in your sideboard as a gotcha or something. It's okay, well, that's very specific. They have to Thoughtseize you when that's your only choice.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But this one... So, when you discard this card, you get to create a token that's a copy of target permanent. So, in a situation that I was in... where I was playing this mono black discard deck, I think I was playing a different one. I had it was a different deck I was playing, which was this Dimir bullshit, still discard stuff, because if you're playing black, you're playing discard shit. Anyway,
yeah, of course.
So it was turn 3, and they were on 1 land, and I had a Kaito. No, it must have been turn 4. So I had a Kaito and one of the ninjas and some stuff. And I went to Undercity Plunder them because they were on 1 land and just getting screwed. And doing the, oops, oh well, the game's over, I don't have anything. So I play this.
Yeah, yeah.
They discard 2 Orvars from my one Undercity Plunderer because they decide to discard another one. They make their own Kaito and they take a land from me. And so now they're back in the game and then they fucking swing back and destroy me. And it was just
They lulled you into the false sense of security. They're like, "Come on, buddy."
They
I
really
know
did.
You want to cast Undercity Plunder?
They like went turn 2, no land, oops, and then just like waited for me to try to thought seize or mind rot
Should
them.
have just killed them with your stupid 1/1 ninja.
Yeah.
Just attack every turn and pass.
I should have until they decided to play the
Attack
lands in
every
their
turn,
hand.
draw a card and pass.
It was really brutal. So I think it's cool that, you know, Orvar gets to be in the sideboard and play this pivotal role is really cool. It's also a 4-drop, so City Stalker Connoisseur hits it often.
Which is the best, by the way, because then you copy the City Stalker Connoisseur and you kind of do it right back to them. So it's like counters the City Stalker Connoisseur, sort of, where you both get a 3/3, but they actually have to discard their best card rather than you.
Yeah.
Which is what made me think to bring it in, and I was lucky that I just happened to have 2 in my collection, probably from like Call Time sealed events or some shit. I wouldn't recommend crafting them because, you know, we'll get to the changes that are coming a little later, but yeah, it's not worth a mythic rare wild card, I don't think. So I just had like 2 in my sideboard, but I would have played the full 4 if I had them.
Yeah, I think I only had 2 as well, just because same situation. I didn't want to craft the rest of them because it was never a card I had used in any other situation. But wow, kind of through all this, and you had hinted at the card, the Painful Offering, which is the instant speed draw 2, and then your cards hurt you when you play them. The ones with mana value 3 or greater. Yeah, something's gonna happen just because black is the color to play. I think like, do you feel the same way? If you don't play black in Alchemy, you're probably doing it wrong.
Oh, definitely. It got so many super powerful cards that there's just not a lot you can do about them. They're just like cheap, efficient 2-for-1s. Or if it's City Stalker Connoisseur, it's really like a 3-for-1 a lot of the time because it'll usually get in like 6 damage, trade with something, and make you discard a relevant spell. You can't even usually get it to discard a land. It's always going to hit something. So it's just like when you pile up 6 damage, trades with your best thing because it has Death Touch, and then also gets rid of another one of your best things. It's pretty fair to call that card like a 3-for-1 a huge amount of the time.
Yeah, it can also fuck people up if they're holding like Agadeem's Awakening or any of those like
I got hit by that a lot.
Expensive spell lands that they haven't played. It happens to me when I was playing the white one with the Angels. And you're like, fuck, I needed that land. That was my 4th land. And you're like, all right, well, now I just have to play those on turn 1 because I don't want it to get eaten out of my hand. Ugh.
That does make me think of, though, your double Orvar story. Made me think of my double Orvar story. The best thing that I had with Orvar, which was to kill a graveyard trespasser. And I've brought it upon myself to do that discard, right? Because I had these Orvars rotting in my hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I could just... Because I thought they had to do it to me for some reason. I was like, the game doesn't know that I triggered this ward and refused. Like, okay. So I kill the Graveyard Trespasser, discard my Orvar to the ward trigger, copy the Graveyard Trespasser, discarding my other Orvar to that ward trigger, and then just copy something that I had so I didn't have to discard another card. But I was like, wait, I think I could get all my Orvars onto the battlefield because they have a single Graveyard Trespasser. Just always copy that one, and the last one copies something else.
That's cool. Because the ward is forcing you to discard a card, and it's an opponent.
Yeah.
It's opponent's ability.
Yeah.
That is cool. That's smart. Yeah. Wow.
That was one of the games I managed to win. But
yeah, after doing that, turns out
it was still close.
Yeah, double Orvaring is pretty good. It's a good thing to do. You should do it if you can. But besides that, like the whole meta is like Orzhov, Rakdos, Mardu, Grixis, Dimir, Esper.
Oh yeah, I didn't play against a deck that was not a black mid-range deck.
Yeah.
Like, I think the weirdest deck, quote-unquote, weirdest deck I played against was a Golgari mid-range deck. And that was clearly somebody who basically just liked Golgari for whatever reason, took the stockpile of black cards all these decks are playing and then filled it out with some green cards. Like, absolutely thrashed me with culling ritual against my unsuspecting ninjas deck.
That is rough. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
I
rough.
was, he was like, okay, wipe your board that generates 8 mana for me, play 3 things, your go. It's like, huh.
Fuck.
I
Okay.
didn't. I was like, "There's no way I can lose this game," and now I was like, "There's no way I can win this game." That happened really fast.
Oh, yikes. That's so rough.
Forgot about culling ritual, because I was like, even if they wipe the board, I still have man lands, and I'll just like whatever land it was, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, or maybe it was even the Frost Giants one. But I was like, oh, even if they tap out to wipe my board, I'll just attack them for the win. So I committed, right? And then culling ritual and play a bunch of blockers was, as it turns out, enough. I was like, forgot about that one. Forgot about that.
Yeah, you don't.
I was thinking like, Maid Hook Massacre was like the worst thing for me, but
Turns out no. Ugh. Yeah, who plays Culling Ritual? That's awesome. That's exciting.
I had to respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sweet. I did play against a Simic mill deck that was very strange, but but the whole thing was like, instead of playing Is It, where you're trying to copy stuff, it was like, hey, I'm gonna play all the mill cards and then green cards that regrow my mill cards, so that if I discard them, I draw them again. And I was like,
Gotcha. The really slow copy.
yeah, really slow, slow copy. Yeah, so that wasn't the best thing. And this was one of the off-meta decks where I'm like, this is so interesting. I think some of these events, if you do it on the first day, because I was playing on Friday, and so people had not went 7-0 and posted their list or something yet.
Right.
So a lot of people are just like, let's see what it is. Which was a lot of fun. I played against like a Boros equipment deck that was, well, not happy to say the least. I felt bad. That was a meh. Sorry.
I wonder if there's some amount of like, early on, you get people who play Alchemy and want to try something other than the black decks and see if they're worth, without actually wasting wildcards on them. But as you go through, it becomes more and more people that want to see if they should craft the black deck. So everyone's just playing like the black deck by the end. But at the start, you actually get some people trying some really wonky stuff.
Yeah. I wish we could have caught more people early, because now it's like, well, if you crafted a bunch of Undercity Plunders or some of these cards, they may get nerfed and they pretty bad.
I don't see a world where City Stalker Connoisseur remains the same.
And that was buffed too. City Stalker was buffed.
Yeah. It maybe just didn't need the buff.
I guess so. It was just supposed to be like, I think it was buffed so it was just like a point of, I actually don't remember what that buff was.
I think it was like a 3-2 without Death Touch before or something, and now it's a 3-3 with Death Touch, something like that.
Yeah, they just tried to make it so you had to spend more mana to kill it, I guess. Which is one card, like Molten Impact also surprised me at how, not how much people were playing it, but how horrible it is. I was like, so mad, where I'm like playing creatures and I'm like, oh, sick. Okay, well, this one's a 4/5, so I'm safe from that removal spell. Because, in your mind, you're used to, okay, well, if I can get above a certain toughness, I'm fine. But of course, they played that freaking thing on a 1/1, and then they just like obliterated my other card. I'm like, well, that's so rough. So I hope that they bring that, maybe bring it down a point. Maybe it just deals 3 damage. I think that'd be fair.
Yeah, and I don't know what has to change with Undercity Plunder, but something. I mean, it's just like, when I saw it, I wondered if the fact that the card was random was enough to make it like not that good. But it's still just very, very good. Like, on both sides. When I cast it, I'm always happy, and when my opponent casts it, I'm always sad. So
yeah.
Unless I have 2 Orvars in my hand, of course.
Yeah.
That never happened to me.
Yeah, I think they should just like take some, like, if it did what it did, but it didn't hit me so hard, I think I'd feel better about it.
Right.
because it just wallops you, and like it's so like you trade off a real strong creature for it. So I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. There's just no way out of some of these cards, and it feels like there is some counterplay. Like against Undercity Plunder, I can hold a land that if I think they're going to have it later on in the game and discard the second land, and then they don't get their card either. But that doesn't feel great. Like they still only cast 2 mana on this thing, and I still had to discard 2 cards. Like, and I missed a land drop, at some point to do that. Like, even discarding 2 lands, you're like, that's still pretty harsh for a 2 mana card.
Just you shouldn't be able to mind rot me for 2. Like
It's crazy how Mind Rot sucks for 3, but is so good for 2.
right.
But we kind of already learned that with like Go Blank being crazy playable. You don't have to add that much to Mind Rot to make it good.
Yeah.
And taking away a whole mana is adding a hell of a lot.
So much. Fuck. Especially if you've mulliganed. Fuck. It's so rough. Which is so.
Oh yeah.
Initially, all these discard spells were coming into this format, and I was so stoked because I do like discard stuff. Like it's not like I'm against this. Like it's so cool, and I always
this is like my style of deck. And
Yeah.
that I'd like it to be good, but not this good.
yeah. You want it. It's the same thing as like the auras, right? Where I like auras, but I want it to be fringe. And auras in general like they're a glass cannon, so like they're never going to be too good, really.
Right.
But
It's easy for them to like turn the dials and print stuff that hates on it.
yeah, or just like generically, like people just have to build with that in mind. It's
Right.
much harder to do that against this. There have to be way more cards that say when you discard this, things happen.
People are stuffing Orvars into their decks and still losing to this.
Yeah,
like that's what's crazy.
the non-blue deck, main decks like 3 or 4 Orvars just for this situation.
Totally.
It's like, oh god,
It's excessive. Like I wouldn't mind, black mid range to be a tier 1 deck. I just would like there to be other tier 1 decks as well. I don't want it to be all of tier 1 and most of tier 2 is like a black mid range.
it's ridiculous. It's so crazy. I do wonder, do they think it was okay because they printed that artifact in Neon Dynasty, the uncommon containment dude? What is his name? The 2/1 that whenever
I don't know what you're talking about.
there's a 2/1 in Neon Dynasty. It's an artifact that when you discard a card, you can play it until end of turn.
Oh, that's
They're like, oh, there you go. You have to discard this thing.
hold up an
whatever.
instant, and then when they make you discard it, get them.
Get them.
Then it's just a 1-for-1, and you're not 2-for-1. But you did have to play this shitty artifact, so I guess you kind of got 2-for-1. Because they make you discard on their turn. It can't be a creature, right? Or is it until the end of your next turn or something?
No, they would make it. Yeah, it wouldn't really work unless it was like an instant or something.
Yeah, but then it's just going to be a removal spell that like trades with the thing anyways. You still got 2-for-1.
Yeah, exactly. So this card I hadn't ever played, but happened to be in this random black discard deck that I played, was Gutmorn Pact Bound Servant. Do you remember this from the first Innistrad Alchemy release? It's a mythic, so probably not, because I tend to
Absolutely not.
think of the mythics. But this card's pretty interesting. So it's a legendary demon creature, and it's a 1/3 with flying and death touch, and it says, when it enters the battlefield, each player discards a non-land card. All right, so you both discard. That's a fair discard spell. I get it. It also says, whenever a player discards a card during your turn, that player... they choose another player, and then that player conjures a duplicate of that card into their hand, and it perpetually gains when you spend mana. You can cast it for whatever mana that you have. So the idea is that this is like the last card you play in your hand. You don't discard a card; they have to discard their card, and then you get a copy of it, and you can play it.
Okay.
It's very weird, and it's hard to play because it's confusing, and it works really well with those decks. Except for when you play your card, sometimes you discard a good card that's a discard spell that you give them that they get you with.
Yeah.
And then when you discard cards on your turn, then it's really confusing. So, but the coolest thing that happened was I was playing this mono black discard deck with this guy against mono white that have that the 3-1 that when you play it, Sigardian Evangel. That's the 3-1 that when you play it, you get another one in your hand, and then at the
Yes.
end of turn, you have to discard all your extra copies. So then
So
they would
everyone's
play
just got
that.
so much.
So they would play that, tap down a bunch of things, makes a bunch of them, discard their last copy. It goes to me. I have it now. I play mine. I keep conjuring more, and then I'm getting their white lands that they're discarding. So I'm playing a bunch of those, and then I have a copy left in my hand at the end of my turn. So I discard it, and it goes back to them. And it was this weird cycle. And it was
just playing all these Sigardian saviors.
and that it basically went down to counting up how many blockers we had, and if you could tap down enough things to attack. It was
sure, yeah.
the most ridiculous game. I stabilized at 3 life and was able to win through this weird thing. Oh god, it was just the most ridiculous thing that I didn't even think of in my mind that was like something the cards could do.
Right.
But,
You wouldn't for some reason when I imagined conjuring cards into your hand, I always imagined them just like poofing away into exile after, not actually being discarded. So I wouldn't think of them triggering that weird thing.
yeah. It's kind of like when you play your Sanguine Brushstroke and then you like lose your Blood Artist, but then you can reanimate it later.
Right.
It's that-
It always felt weird to me that I could do that at first. Yeah, that card that you were just talking about is definitely one of those cards where I would read it, then read it again, and then be kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna see what happens. I'm not sure off the initial read I actually understand what's gonna happen when this card enters the battlefield.
Yes. And this is the one thing that I was happy. So all access Alchemy event. I play it. I would have never crafted these mythic cards that I've never played with. I don't understand how the card works. I play it. I realize I don't really think it's that good. It's too hard to play with. I don't want to play this card. But I'm happy that I played it.
And when other people are constantly making you discard, it feels like actively a downside
Yes.
to have this thing.
But it only does that when it's your turn. Do cards go to the other people?
Oh, okay.
Or no, it's when... Wait. No, that's not true. Because when they would discard on their turn, I would still get it.
The Sigardian Saviors, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's a bug then. Because I was getting cards maybe I shouldn't have gotten. And I thought it wouldn't work that way, but it did. I don't know. I still don't know how this card works.
See, that's what I was saying. Do you remember that green one? The green one they released in the first Alchemy set that like everybody read it and everybody had a different idea about what it did.
Oh,
but
yeah, Grizzled Huntmaster.
Discard It lets you like discard creatures out of your hand to go get one from your sideboard and replace it. But you could also, for some reason, like purge them all from your deck if you felt like it. So it was like very strange text. That everyone was like, wait a minute, how many cards do I get if I do this? How does this card work? Is it card advantage? I don't even know. I don't think it is. I think it's just like you get rid of shitty Llanowar elves in the late game.
Yeah, exactly.
Replace them with awesome big monsters. But
it's so weird.
I literally had to just play. I like crafted one so that I could just play a game and play it and see what happens when I do it. 'Cause I was like,
just to understand. Which is what's great about these all access events, because that's literally that's like a bunch of this cool design possibly. If I don't understand it, I'm just gonna be like, no, I tap out, man. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So
I thought the card was awesome because I was like, if I discard Llanowar elves and then get the 3 other Llanowar elves out of my deck, I go get like 4 cards. And I was like, that can't be how it works, but it seems like that's what it says. So.
In the end, ultimately, through this whole discussion, more all access events is really great. Even if you have to pay like a little bit for them. Like this is like 2,000 gold or something. Not a big deal to me. I got to learn a lot. And a lot was only craft the black cards. Those are the ones that seem great until they get nerfed, probably. So, sorry, rebalanced. I mean, they get rebalanced.
2,000 gold is what, like, hopefully 3 days of doing your challenges? Or like 3... Maybe it doesn't have to be 3 straight days, but it's like 3... what do you call those? Reward challenge things.
Daily quests.
Daily quests, yeah. Because if you listened to last week's episode, you know to always re-roll for the 750.
Mm-hmm. Always re-roll.
And so you hopefully can get 2 750s and a 500 in 3 quests, and there's your 2,000.
Yeah. Also, you do get 15 wins per week, and then your certain ones during each day. So those always
Right.
just
If
kind
you
of
don't
jump
manage
in
to
there.
get the second 750, hopefully you should still get there. If you get only 500s, it might
Yeah.
take you 4 days.
But in any case, I thought it was a great event this weekend. Really, really glad that they did that, and I want more of that, and more right after new cards come out, or close to. You know, maybe it's like the first weekend they don't, but then the weekend after that they do, right?
Yeah.
Because they still want to make their money somehow, so there's no way we're going to stop that. But hey, I'll take what I can get. So Jeff, I am just about finished with this beer, so let's go on a beer break and finish everything, our alchemy talk after that.
Sounds good to me.
This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener, but if you want to support the show even more, head over to the Patreon. That's the best way to do that.
Yeah, and when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one, where we ramble on about stuff that sometimes is not magic, but sometimes it is about magic.
Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co-host by buying that co-host a beer, and if you just can't decide, you know what? You could buy us a whole bar.
It's true. You could buy us our own bar that we may mismanage. Probably, most likely, it will be run into the ground if you do. But if you do want to take a chance on us, so go to patreon.com/arenaregulars to buy us a bar.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All right, Zach, what do we got here?
Oh, not even a cool pop sound. So this one does not have a cork, but this is Indie Ale House's Shadow Chaser. So it's an IPA, and they say on the label, in one word to describe this IPA is dank. So yeah, I don't. That's not like an appealing beer word to me. I know it's like a weed word. You know, dank is like a good weed word, but. Anyway, it's an IPA with Idaho 7 Citra and Sabra hops, and it's 5.5%. But the main thing about it is that it has the most horrifying picture on the label.
Yeah, I really hate it.
It is a bad trip. If don't look at this. Just in general, just don't look at it. If you want to, go to our Instagram. You can see all the labels there. But holy shit, this is the scariest thing. So Indie Ale House does this. We had done their Instigator IPA, which is their flagship IPA, which also has a horrifying picture of a man. This one is so much worse than that one. So if you know Instigator, just go to our Instagram at Arena Regulars. Check out this picture because it is fucking scary as shit. Like, it will haunt your dreams. I'm not even kidding. I'm a grown man and I
thought you were going to say it was dank.
it was dank. Yeah, it's so funny because like dank is not a word that I use or like is something I would describe food or like drinks as, but it's definitely one of those words that stoners use a lot. Jeff, do you use the word dank? Just
I never use the word dank.
okay.
No.
All right, perfect. So it's just my fiance then. Perfect.
No, my brother uses it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we looked it up once, and it like someone translated it as like debatably damp.
Ew.
Like,
the
I
fuck?
hate that.
So
So it's not obviously damp. It might be damp. And then we had a fun conversation figuring out, what would happen if something were debatably dank. So we ended up pretty far down the rabbit hole, as you can imagine.
it's dank. Debatably, it's dank.
Yeah.
But you know what's not debatable? That Alchemy needs some fucking changes to happen to the fucking format.
Alchemy is debatably dank, I guess.
Oh, God. Anyway, Jeff, tell us about some of your brews, your Alchemy brews.
Yeah, so when last we left off, our heroes were trying to combat the black discard mid-range menace that had been plaguing the countryside in Alchemy for days. And so I had this brilliant idea, because I don't know if you remember this, but a few weeks ago I talked about a standard deck I was working on. And it was a white-based Reanimator deck.
Right.
And one of the interesting parts about this deck is I often had very expensive cards in my hand that I couldn't cast, and I really wanted in my graveyard. So I had the genius idea that to let my opponents do that for me. So I basically took that standard list that I'd built, cut the crappiest cards, and replaced them with 4 Key to the Archives, because, that's what you do, and Key to the Archive lets you discard a card. Something people often forget about that, but you have to discard something to make room for the thing you get.
Wow.
And I started playing this deck, and it was so much fun. I was just like, all people would play their City Stalker Connoisseur, make me discard my Jin Gataxia, so then I would bring it back, and they would have a real hard time to win from there. The one flaw in my plan is that these goddamn black decks have so much incidental graveyard hate, as well as all the other shit that they do. They're also just really good at exiling stuff from your graveyard with their cards that they want to play anyways. Like, they have the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, they have the Graveyard Trespasser. They usually all have something else in the sideboard, like Go Blank is often like something you see around all the time. And so it didn't work as triumphantly as I thought, but I did get some fun and close matches out of it. But at first I was like, ha, these fools will make me discard my cards. Do my work for me. Yeah. And they did. And then they would play Graveyard Trespasser and exile it for one.
Oh, God. Yeah. That's so funny. So, like, I guess gone are the days of black not being able to touch other black cards. Remember that? Where it's like, oh, hey, black cards kill everything except for other black cards.
Right. Yeah, the old Dark Banishing.
Yeah, terror kind of all that kind of stuff. Which kind of makes sense flavorfully, but this is funny because it's now, oh, black is really good against things that black likes to do, like reanimate shit. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like the white reanimator deck was getting beat by the black, aggro deck kind of thing. I did have an interesting time when my opponent cast Jin Gataxias, because that is what they stole off the Undercity Plunder they had cast on me earlier in the game. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds right. And they just got to 8 mana and cast it. That's cool.
And they're like, I'm going to double all of my discard spells, and you can't play.
Yeah, I just really hope I at least got a chuckle or a WTF out of my opponent when I discard like Island, and then they get Jin Gataxias into their hand. Like, wait a minute, what am I playing against?
That's oh god.
I still stand by that being so fun though. There's nothing better than reanimating, the Lorehold Dragon and putting 5 counters on it, or 4 counters on it, and then hitting them and casting like a 8 or 9 mana spell.
That sounds so fun, like so cool. I love the idea of, the reanimator strategy has 3 different quadrants that you need in your deck, and just cutting one of the quadrants and being like, my opponent will do that one for me. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna play any. I'll still play
Key, but like
the good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything else is like, they're gonna make me discard cards. It's fine.
Yeah, I really don't need discard outlets. I could just focus on like removal spells and like looting, or like not looting, like actual card advantage to get through my deck rather than wasting all this time on looting. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But like, just imagine there's a meta shift and nobody plays discard, and my deck just does nothing.
Yeah, and the first couple matches will be like, "Oh, this is really embarrassing." They're like, "What the fuck is this deck? What are they doing? They're playing Reanimator."
What was he doing?
Yeah, but the only way they discard cards is Key to the Archive. Like, what's going on? Oh god.
Is his plan really to get to 8 mana and cast Jin Gataxias? Is that even that good at that point?
It's like, but not ramping into it? Like, what are you doing? I guess Key ramps, but anyway, that's awesome. I like that.
Obviously had my pair of Orvars in there.
Yeah. And you can actually play them too. That makes a little bit more sense than when I was playing them and they were literally just to sit in my hand.
Hey man, I could reanimate them if I need to. I don't actually remember what the main text on Orvar does. I only play it for the other text, but
Which is
it copies stuff somehow.
but like the thing about Orv, it's just hilarious because that card. The only reason that you would play it before is because you could target things and like copy the cards that you targeted. It's just it's, they like forget whatever text on the back or the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's what it does. If I target it with a spell, I get to copy. Do I copy the spell or the thing?
I think let me look it up again. I think you copy the I would think you copy the spell, but is it the thing? As I
don't know.
Already closed out in my Orvar tab from earlier when I was looking at it, just for the bottom part of the text. Yeah. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. It creates tokens of the permanents.
Okay, yeah. So it like copies the thing you're putting pump spells on. This would be pretty good in Azorius Auras, because like you just copy your not SRAM, but the one that's not legendary, That seems pretty sweet.
No, it says instants and sorceries, though.
Yeah, but sometimes you have those hexproof ones, right? Or the protection ones, like dive down.
Yeah.
Dive down your guy and get another one. That's pretty good.
That's true. I would hope to have more, like most of the deck is auras, which wouldn't work with this. I'd probably want a deck that was heavier on other spells that maybe targeted and copied stuff in a different way, so you get to double copies. I think Orvar is the new tech
for Azorius Auras. If you're playing Azorius Auras out there, craft 4 Orvar, slap it in, get rid of your auras, replace them with instants and sorceries to work with Orvar, and then we're there. You get to copy your spell dance.
Yeah, and then you can't play Lurrus anymore, and the only format Lurrus is
Lurrus isn't long for this world anyways.
Wait now. Buy your copies now in paper, I guess, because they're all kind of they're plummeting.
Oh yeah, because he might be banned in the new format that they're about to release.
Yeah. Oh god.
I wouldn't even be that surprised if that format came with like a pre-ban on Lurrus.
You know what's gonna happen is that format is gonna come with a fucking Commander Legends just injected into it.
Yeah, whatever the hell it's called. Maybe that format is called like Alchemy, like A capital I CHEMY. That explains this product.
Oh,
no, it's not going into alchemy, guys. It's going into Alchemy.
Maybe it's just called Legends, and it's just like fucking Commander Legends bullshit and some other stuff.
Or it's just called Commander to try to fool Commander players into coming and playing it.
Literally the same.
That past them at this point.
And so then all the
Wizards official sanctioned format
Commander. And now they're calling all the Commander products like EDH is different, and oh god, that would be so annoying.
They would hate that.
God, what is going on with these formats? Like, I just don't know what's going on.
Sometimes it just feels like some of the teams are working without talking to each other at all, which can happen in big businesses, right?
Yeah.
Like you have some last minute stuff you got to do to
like the
oh,
entire...
shit, you guys were working on that? We were working on this other format.
It's like the entire War of the Spark novel / all of it was all completely off, right? So it's like, obviously no one was talking. It seems like they might still have some of those similar issues. I don't know. It's like, so we had planned to talk about alchemy for this whole time, but it's really hard when you know the cards are getting changed and they fucking added a bunch of cards in the summertime that are not standard legal. I don't understand.
Okay, but I do have a topic then if we want to continue the alchemy talk.
Let's get us back on track, Jeff. You keep us on track.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about cards that must be nerfed. So all these black cards we're talking about must be nerfed. Is there any card, or as they've shown a propensity to do in the past, whole mechanic that you would like to see buffed?
Yes. I would like them to take the Samurai mechanic from the last set and change it completely and redo every card.
I would like them to replace all of those Samurai cards, instead of with the weird Exalted stuff, Give them Bushido. For the love of God, can we get Bushido back on all
God.
the samurais? Every single samurai should have Bushido.
Yeah. And change, like, none of them have
Can
the
you
other
imagine if
types.
that's the change? There are no changes to any of the current cards. They changed the samurais back to Bushido to compete with the black decks.
To compete with your ninja deck. That like, the ninja deck is overpowered. We need more Bushido. Because we need people to block,
Nerf
damn
my
it.
ninja cards.
We need blockers. We need people blocking. No, I think they need to make Dragonfly suit better. Is what they need to do.
Yeah. They need more cards that reference it too. There's not enough
Yeah.
references to Dragonfly suit
Yeah.
currently for
So-
such an important part of the story and the overall lore of Kamigawa.
Yeah, so they have the Dragonfly suit, they have the Dragonfly pilot. I want to know who designed the Dragonfly suit. Was it from
Exactly.
France? Was there like some sort of catwalk where we got to see the suit on display beforehand? Are people?
Maybe nerf it so it's legendary because it's a little excessive.
Yeah,
Just when people have like 6 Dragonfly suits, feels
yeah. It's a little over.
outrageous.
It's too OP right now. So you just make it legendary.
Yeah.
Put it in the story. I don't know what it is, but something's got to happen with Dragonfly suit. Honestly,
I don't know. Just like change the story so that like Teferi was wearing it. and I know he's not even in the story, but just like it cuts to him wearing it.
yeah, totally. Yeah, so
Or he was wearing it in like the Innistrad story.
that is why he could slow the sunset. Exactly.
I would love, speaking a little more real, I would love if some of the key party cards, like the party enablers, just got a bit of a buff so that you would actually consider playing them. Like how they buffed Dungeon Descent.
Yeah.
I feel like they could also buff Base Camp, because Base Camp was another land that was inexplicably terrible. Like, they just went so hard on making this land unplayable that I could see them change that land so that you could actually play a 3-color party deck, because that's one of the biggest problems. It's so hard to do because there's no 3-color enabler. And then make a couple of the payoff, quote unquote payoff cards, like the 4-drop that makes soldiers, whatever, and the Linvala. Just give them a little more juice, kind of like they did with the venture mechanic.
Yeah. I mean, I would also like that. That was something that the people have been asking for from like the beginning of Alchemy, being like, what about Base Camp? Like, what's going on with that, right?
I still can't believe they did us dirty by having like no party in the D&D set. And I was like, oh, party's clearly a setup for the D&D set, and then party just continued to suck forever.
It seems like
even though people still love it and wanted it to be good.
It seems like a home run slam dunk. I don't understand why they would present it like 7-8 months before the D&D set and just like skip the whole party thing. It's just so weird to me. Like, why?
I think it was what we were talking about, like miscommunication. Like, it was a mechanic that was supposed to be in the D&D set and then got moved, or the D&D set was not supposed to be the D&D set until pretty late, and they had already used party in this, and then they're just like, let's not reference that mechanic we made that's clearly I would have been like, oh, the D&D set got approved after we already put party to print. That's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to us. Let's go hard on that.
The thing, I know, okay, this has nothing to do with what we were talking about this episode, but like, you could have just changed some of the creature types that don't, like, it doesn't matter. Just change the creature types so they fit into party.
Right.
You don't even have to add party or anything.
No, they actually went out of their way to make stuff in a D&D set like not a rogue.
Or like fucking warlocks
like,
and shit.
hell?
Yeah, like, God.
So obviously a rogue.
Mm-hmm. I can't.
Like, parties are really cool mechanics. A really interesting take on
Tribal.
And I want it to be at least, I'm not saying it has to be awesome, but, could it at least not be a total joke? Like, it's when I see someone playing party, I'm like, oh, that's cute. I respect that. Mm-hmm. Like, I see what you're trying to do. But I already know I'm like 95% to win because like their deck is just going to beat itself because the cards aren't there. Is that too much to ask? That the cards are at least like pretty good. If you get a full party, the cards should be decent because that's pretty hard to accomplish. And instead, they're just like a mild buff.
So this is something. Do you think they would ever rebalance cards just to change their creature types? Like, are there cards in Adventures of the Forgotten Realms where they're like, you know what? We are going to rebalance some of those cards to change the creature types so they fit in the party. Would they do that?
I think they could. Like, they could justify that. I think it would have to come with a buff to the other stuff. Like, oh, here's an update. We buffed Linvala, the party card. We buffed the 1-drop party cleric card.
We buffed the black, red one.
4-drop warrior. And then we made some of these other cards like a rogue and a wizard. And that would make more sense rather than if it's just like one random card changes from a shaman to a wizard or something. But I think they definitely could do that. But it'd have to be, like I said, kind of part of a bigger party update so that people were like, oh, that makes sense.
What they need to do, honestly, is make City Stalker Connoisseur a rogue. Like, that would...
There you go, yeah. That just card needs a buff. It needs to go in more decks.
It needs to go in more decks.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it enough. It's definitely not gotten to the point where every time my opponent has 4 mana, I'm like 90% sure that's what's going to happen, and it actually happens at about that rate.
Yeah. I do want to say, as I'm looking back at some of these alchemy cards, that Patient Zero is nowhere to be found. That's the card that remembers damage.
Yeah.
It makes it more Hearthstone-y. No one plays that card, and it is not... It just sucks.
I really want a... I think they might have already buffed it, but I want another buff to old Get Drug Monster. Okay? I want it buffed until it's playable, and I will keep asking for it until that happens.
Then I want a buff on Light Paws, where you can put enchantments on your opponent's creatures when you tutor them.
There you go.
That's what I want.
Yeah. That doesn't seem overpowered for alchemy.
No, you just like, hey, I can have my removal or my buff stuff come in on, because there's like so many auras that you can't play with Light Paws that just suck. Like, oh.
In fact, one way to combat what's going on would be to invest in like things that are card advantage, but don't just put cards in your hand, because then you're actually like just not doing anything against discard. But if you have other versions of card advantage,
that's true.
Get around actually holding the card in your hand, that could do something against discard.
I'm not against a meta where discard and the card advantage is like the thing to do. I think that is really interesting. We just need more things that can combat discard. Right.
It feels like people are going way out of their way to counter a specific deck and then still losing to that deck.
Yes.
Which is that's not a good spot for a meta game, no matter what the deck is. Even if it's your favorite deck, it still sucks.
So yeah, I think there is some stuff. I'm excited to see what they come up with. We'll see this week. But yeah, Alchemy needs some. Before it felt fairly like balanced, and then very recently it was like, whoa, fuck, it is off the rails, out of control. So luckily we get something sooner than New Capena, which you were talking about enabling 3 colors. Well, New Capena is going to do that for us. We're getting a Bant land, so we're or whatever it's called.
There we go. Party deck is back, baby.
There you go.
As long as they buff up about 10 cards for it. Just do what you did with Venture, but for Party. It's seemingly minor buffs, but to all of the key pieces, so the deck actually becomes playable.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jeff, I know that we're kind of closing out on our alchemy discussion. I'm complaining too much. You're giving some really great ideas. But I think...
No, I'm giving some very far-fetched ideas. They're not going to buff a mechanic that's about to rotate out in a mere, 6 months or whatever.
That is true. That you're right. But I think it is time for last call. So as we move into our rating portion of this evening, of course we need to talk about our rating scale, which is a scale that goes from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. Look at that. How crazy. As always...
It's funny when things work out.
Yeah, right? But this has nothing to do with your personal tier in Arena. This is just a fun way to rate beers. We are not throwing shade on anyone in any specific tier. However, bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. We hate them. You have to pour them down the sink because they're so bad, you cannot finish them.
Silver beers, these are macro brews, or basically just, beers that don't have a lot going on. We were joking off air earlier that every Pilsner we've ever tried seems to find its way into this category, so.
Which we're hoping to amend at some point. We are...
To rectify.
Yeah, we're working on our taste buds. Gold beers are fine, but you probably wouldn't really drink them again.
Yeah, platinum, these are sort of the other end of that spectrum. They're solid, and you would drink these again.
Diamond are exceptional beers. You would recommend these to your friends and bring them to parties if you ever go to a party.
What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. You mean like there's a rogue, there's a wizard. And Mythic is the best of the best. Yeah, I mean, nothing else to say. These are absolutely top tier.
Yeah, just your favorite things in the world.
All right, I think I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, here you go. 3, 2, 1. Grendel's Revenge. All right, so you had a moment of doubt, but we knew where you were coming back to. We knew.
Yeah. So I think it was going to be an absolute...
smashing.
Like, coming in, I was just like, this isn't even going to be close. But I guess Grendel's Revenge, I think I was just overhyped on. Because it was still really good, but I think I was just expecting another level. And then I've just come to be like, it's just a dank IPA with a gross face on it. I think I came in, under expecting for that one. Mm-hmm. And so the bar just got closer than I was expecting it to be at the end. But, no, Grendel's Revenge, it's one of the better oud Bruins I've tried, I have to say. It's definitely top 5, top 10 oud Bruin that I've had. It's pretty good, but it's a little more... I don't know what to say. I guess it was more mellow than I was expecting.
Really?
It describes it as having tobacco and then being earthy and then hitting raisin and sweet and sour. And I was expecting more of a roller coaster ride than I got, I think.
That's just...
I don't know. I think just if that description weren't there, I might have actually gone on that roller coaster ride. But because that description is there, I was expecting a harsher... I don't know how to describe it. I was expecting whoa, 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 whoa.
Because I was this can safely. I think I can say that this is the best oud Bruin I've ever had.
Yeah, wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, it's high praise there. Just because I don't know if I've ever had this style of beer before. But
I don't know if I've ever pronounced the style of beer correctly.
I have no idea. But once I knew it was a mixture of different aged beers. We've had some aged beers before, and we've had farmhouse stuff and all those kinds of things. So I'm used to those types of flavors, and this was it did feel a little bit like an explosion when I first tasted it. It was whoa. This is, I don't even, and I didn't have very high expectations. So it could have been, I was pretty low on it, and then I came up to it. And so I think we kind of met in the middle there. But
I honestly think if I hadn't read it's going to start tobacco and earthy, and then go into fruity, and then finish at sweet and sour, I was like, man, if I didn't read that, maybe my experience would have been totally different.
I think I've read rich tobacco on enough and earthy notes on enough wine labels that I'm just it doesn't matter. To me, I'm is that going to be there? No.
It's going to taste like tobacco and leather. Yeah,
for sure. And then you drink it and you're like, okay, it tastes like rubber bands. Nice.
Yeah.
But
that's what they meant. Dirty rubber bands.
Dirty rubber bands, like old pennies. Nice. But I like it in a weird way that you're a kid and you eat random shit that's around your house.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's the adult way of experiencing that.
Yeah. Everybody likes eating dirty rubber bands. Jeff, do you have a tier for this beer?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm putting it on you. You brought it.
Put it on me. You know what? I think this one's close, but I got to put this one in platinum because I just expected greatness and I got goodness.
I'm going to put this in diamond. I liked this. This was weird. I would get this
Yeah.
again, and I would tell people about this fucking weird thing.
I'm gonna get it again though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it again a different time to like go through the experience again. But I think my expectations. It's gonna be one of those things where next time my expectations will be too low, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, this was amazing," and then the third time maybe I'll have
it'll be
medium expectations.
so it'll be like right on the border, and you'll find it. But no, I really like this.
And then I'll discover how much I actually like it.
Yeah, it's and it definitely feels like a bottle that comes with a cork and is 8% feels worth it for like kind of the price tag that comes with it. Nothing against the bottle that was not corked, but it does have a certain kind of air to it. But with that, let's move on to the dank, scary fucking face of Shadow Chaser. That's a fucking Shadow Chaser? Is that what that is? Like your shadows are scary, but this is what chases your shadows away? That's...
Like, this makes me... What's that called? Like the uncanny valley or whatever? When it's like something weirds you out when it's... You could tell it's humanoid, but it doesn't really look like a human. There's that like really eerie thing that goes on.
You can tell.
And it has something
also known
part
as
of that going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like purposefully placing features of a face in the wrong places to freak you out. And also having skin of like flowers, but like scary flowers. I don't even know.
Right.
And the background is like acid.
You're going to say also known as. Do you know what it's actually called? Because I'm only like...
Oh, I don't.
I'm only like... Yeah, I said the uncanny valley, but that doesn't sit right with me either. So, yeah.
No, I was going to say also known as a bad artist. Not that this is bad,
Yeah.
but it has an air of it where it looks like someone didn't know where the anatomy of a body was. And so they put them in the wrong place. But this artist knows that they're purposely putting them in the wrong place.
That's what I was going to say. You can tell that they do. It's like a Picasso kind of thing. Where it's like, that he knows that this is not where things are on a face.
But it could be similar to like a child's drawing where the mouth is in the wrong place and the nose is weird. But
Right, it's just not quite lined up. But it's sort of in the right spot.
But it's close. Yeah. But it has a detail to it that you can tell that it is a skilled artist making this piece, which makes it scary. It doesn't look like a child's drawing. It looks like it's unsettling. It's very unsettling. But the beer, I did like this too. I like this a lot. I agree with you that they were close. I just think I knew straight out the gate that I knew I wanted to pick the other one. And when I tasted this one, it took me a while to get into it. Like coming off of the Grendel's Revenge, coming back down into an IPA world to get back to this. But I think this is really good. I'm really impressed with Indy. I like before this we've had Instigator, which I liked. But these other ones are really surprising me.
I mean, I would say that, and then at the end of the day, I've given all of their beers platinum. But or I guess the spoiler for what I'm going to give this one. But I picked the other one, and this one, I'm not going to give it a higher rating than the one I picked.
Yeah.
But I feel like these are probably like platinum, but a step ahead of Instigator for me.
Yeah.
And Grendel's Revenge could be one of those ones that, like, who knows? Maybe it'll be a mythic beer for me after I try it a few more times. Maybe the time it takes for me to understand it is similar to the time it takes to ferment. Just not like have one beer and understand it right away kind of thing.
It's like a good movie that takes you a while to get. You see all the pieces, right? It's like a great Magic card that was underlooked in the previous season. But then once the format started to fall into place, the metagame made it shine. I agree that Shadow Chaser is fucking horrifying, but platinum But I would definitely get this. I don't buy Instigator very often because I just think it just kind of feels like a scary logo. This one is a really good beer though, and I like these hops too. So
this one's just like Instigator, but more. They went scarier on the logo,
and a better beer.
I guess it's not more in like ABV. It's actually quite a bit less than Instigator.
I think it's like a point less, maybe. I think is Instigator 6? I can't remember. Anyway, 6.5. But in any case,
I feel like Instigator was fairly high. But...
I don't remember. I just can't keep. I can't.
Guys, that was like 30 episodes ago. Okay,
Yeah,
give me a break.
yeah. We did Instigator at episode 45. This is episode 70.
Not quite 30, but
Close.
it's 25 episodes ago. Good guy. Go! Oh my god. These big bottle beers.
Yeah, with that, Jeff, we went from left field, which was small beers, and now we have big bottles, so it hits us, we're not really used to it.
Now we're overcompensating.
Yeah. But I think we're coming into last call with Jeff not being able to complete a sentence, and me not being able to complete sentences for the last 30 minutes. So, anyway, you can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, you can also find us on MTG Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to find me personally, you can find me at Zulberg, that is Zulberg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
I technically do have a Twitter account. It's at Blues Brews MTG, BLUES MTG.
You should have seen Jeff. He was crazy after the Oscars. He was tweeting up a storm about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. It's insane. Jeff is a Twitter fiend, so you should go follow him because he's got his finger on the hot topics.
Wait, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock?
And also,
no, even I know that.
Yeah. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify and anywhere you've been listening to this podcast, and rate us anywhere that you can. All of those ratings actually mean a great deal to us. They really help us grow the podcast. Go to our YouTube channel, give us a like, tell us, hey, you should put more YouTube videos on this channel because there aren't enough YouTube videos here. And just comment on our things. We love to talk to all of you, and we've had some really great feedback about our recent episodes. So we it makes us feel really nice. So we would love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, warms the heart.
This has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you that alchemy is a dumpster fire.
Good night. All right, that's fine.